Ambassador He, thank you very much for sharing this time and sharing your insights in a world and at a time which is very complex. How would you look at the world as it is today, and what would you share from that?
We are entering probably a new phase in human history that is more challenging than any time before. I often quote President Xi Jinping's remarks. He said that the world is going through a period of time with the most profound changes unseen in the last 100 years or so. And I think this is very true. To say the most profound changes, as I see it, first is the geopolitical shift in the balance of power, meaning there has been over the last 3 or 4 decades a convergence between developed and developing countries. And China is a particular case, is a prominent case, moving from a relatively backward economy with an average GDP of $200 per capita to $9,900 US last year, number 2 economy in the world. But China also feels this is very, very complicated. I often say this is the best time in the history for China, and also the worst time in the history of China. The best time in the sense that after 30 or 40 years of opening up reform, China has grown up, become richer, more developed, and people are happier, and they have greater aspiration, and they're hopeful to have a better future. It's right in their eyes, the total eradication of poverty by 2020 next year. So this is the best period in the recent history, modern history of China. The worst one, because China is facing more dangers, more risks in the world as we see it. The first risk and danger comes from the geopolitical conflict, possible geopolitical conflict with the United States. If the bilateral relationship is not handled well in the next few years. Because in the United States, quite some people view China's progress so far as something threatening to the dominant position of the United States, whether it's political, economic, or in technological terms. See China as a competitor. Not only a competitor from the same side with the same ideology, and they see you as on the other side. What I'm trying to convey is that there are some dangerous signs try to paint China in a negative light, in a negative as a negative figure vis-a-vis America. That can create a situation where China and the US will be on a collision course, geopolitically speaking. That will disrupt the normal pattern of cooperation, especially economic cooperation. Secondly, something is going on inside Western societies. That something is erosive, both erosive and divisive. As we can see it, it's populism. Populism is rising, nationalism is rising, protectionism is rising. How come there is so much anger and frustration on the lower end of working people? Not really people under the poverty line, but lower end, blue-collar workers, or even white-collar workers. Because in these countries, including the United States, a balance between market efficiency and social justice cannot be found. Government or the elite who are running the government and the civil society haven't done enough or haven't found a proper solution to maintain that balance. This widening gap between rich and poor, the inability of various governments or societies to narrow that gap, to find a balance that on the one hand you keep your economy growing, you keep accumulating wealth for your society, but on the other hand you need to take care of those people who are not well treated by globalization. I'm not advocating an egalitarian society, but the thing is, when technology moves ahead, tech revolution is breaking new grounds every day. And how can we manage globalization? How can we make society a cohesive, a harmonious one? You need to have a very serious thought of thinking about bridging that gap between rich and poor.